Welcome to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, proudly presented by Wotif, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Here are your hosts, Mark Ellison, Shannon Donato, and Jeremy Monahan.
Well, welcome everyone to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast for this week, powered by Technica and proudly presented by Wotif. Wotif has you covered for accommodation, flights, car hire and more. So if you're looking for a holiday, travelling for business, you need to get to the next game, or you're just booking ahead for when these lockdowns get lifted, make sure you check out wotif.com/Rabbitohs. Wotif, it's Aussie for travel. My name's Jeremy Monahan. I'd like to welcome my co-host Mark Ellison and Shannon Donato. And gentlemen, this is episode number 22, and 22 is a very special number for our club.
Certainly is, Jez. Hello, and hello to everyone back in Sydney. We've been up here for a week now in the hub, they call it, up here in Queensland. 22 is a special number, Jez, and that's why there's a few little sacrifices the players and staff are making, as everyone in Sydney is at the moment, obviously in lockdown and other parts of Australia. So, there's a special resolve in the place to make sure we can give that a really good shot.
Very good. It looks very comfortable there behind Yellow. You got your choice of beds at night and all sorts of stuff.
Well, I have, Jeremy. The worst part about it, it's taken me about 45 minutes to get it cleaned up so we could go on air today.
You got the two beds there, Hello. Yeah, have you got two seats? I heard you got one for each of your twins as well. Is that right?
That's a good start, yeah. Gee, I've missed you for a week, Shannon.
Jez was talking about 22, and I know he's referring to the fact that our 22nd premiership is what we're all working towards, but I heard 22 is also the number of times you went back to the breakfast buffet this morning at the quarantine lockdown. Is that true, Hello?
No, that's not true, Shannon. That's not true.
Okay.
That is it.
It was the number we've won in the last 43 years.
Very good. What about you, Shannon? How are you going in your hub there?
I'm going really well, Jez. It's certainly, I forgot what COVID lockdown's like. You know, it's, it gets you down a little bit. You know, I was putting on a bit of weight, and I was thinking, I probably need to lose a bit of weight. But being a rabbit, I'm so competitive. I don't like to lose anything. So I think I'll park that for a while.
Very good. I like it. What's the menu log count up to?
Oh, I'll tell you what, just give you a tip. If you're going to buy shares in menu log over the next 3 weeks.
Excellent. Right, let's move on to the first segment as we do each week. Something you've learned this week. We'll start with you, Shannon.
Okay, Jez. Well, as I said, what I've learned is just how challenging and tough lockdown can be. We know the players are up there doing it tough. They're locked down for 14 days. But even at home, if you still, the players doing it particularly hard away from home, but even in your own home, it's hard not to get down at times, and I feel for everybody out there, and just the littlest things can get you down. I was down the other day and I brought out my step ladder, and then I just sort of reminisced. I didn't even know my real ladder, so I was getting quite down. I was trying to do some work, and and I couldn't understand why my calculator stopped working. It just didn't add up, and I was just trying to.
Listen, Shannon, yes, you need to get back to work. You're getting too much time to prepare for this.
I was going to say, Ello, this reminds me of when Sean McRae used to come up to the office. And he'd have all the one-liners. He'd save them all up and give us all a comedy routine.
You're right.
I was quite clever.
Sometimes, you think, should I tell these one-liners, particularly when everybody's doing it tough? I used to be quite indecisive, but now I'm not so sure. So, so I think I'll leave it there before they go from bad to worse. But
whose jokes are you stealing? You haven't written these yourself. Whose have you stolen?
I haven't heard a joke yet, Jess.
My footy career, I've told you all about it. So now what I've learned is, in the serious department, how tough COVID lockdown is. We feel for all the players up there, but of course we're aware of just all of our members and sponsors and everybody out there who's doing it really tough during COVID lockdown.
Hello, what have you learnt this week?
It's a funny thing, Jez, like we've moved away from our families for a little while. The families just got on a flight today. Majority of them, not all of them, and could make it due to work commitments, etc. And I've got Raylene still back at home. She can't get up here, and I just realised how lucky we are in these times to have such great communication. In FaceTime, Zoom meetings. You can talk to people and you can actually see them face to face and talk. And try to find positives of when you're separated from your family, and that take it back to the World Wars when Australians went away to fight for us. And 18, and some younger than 18-year-olds were going overseas, and they weren't just interstate; they were overseas with no form of communication other than maybe a phone call in the Second World War and just a letter every couple of months. So, we are, people during this time in lockdown and everything, obviously it's hard mentally, but if we take it back and look at how it might have been years before us, sometimes it gives you a better picture of where we actually are.
Yeah, I remember about 10 years ago, we had a young lady that worked with us by the name of Jess, and her boyfriend, now husband, was in the Special Forces, and he'd go away for 6 months at a time into war zones such as Afghanistan and Iraq and these types of things, and not downplaying the sacrifice that everyone is making for this, but you get an understanding of what some of these families go through to do their jobs, and obviously they're also fighting for their country, but these guys are representing our club as well, and they're willing to make these sacrifices for our club. It's pretty special stuff, and as you say, everyone's doing it for a reason. People aren't just going up there to play footy and not win games of football, and I'm sure the resolve within our group to bring home that trophy at the end of the year gets even stronger when they're making these sacrifices.
It certainly does, and I mean, there's, you've got to be grateful to some of the other teams who know they can't actually make the playoffs now, but they're still coming up. Obviously, they're ensuring their income, etc., but they're still coming up here for the first. They won't see their families for 3 weeks actually, which is quite a time. You say 3 weeks quickly, but when every night you're in your room on your own and you haven't got your family around, it's a little bit tough. But to have something to play for makes that a lot easier, And the boys have been great. The staff have been great. We're getting on well. We're finding things to do with our time, but we're certainly looking forward to all the families getting up here. They have to do their quarantine for a couple of weeks first, but then I'm sure when they come in and we join together as a group, we'll be even stronger.
I can tell you from everyone that's still down here, LA, we're all hoping that initial 4-week period is all that it is, and if it isn't, it looks like being longer, which it probably does look like that at the moment. We hope those restrictions are lifted by late September, early October, because we want to be there for grand final day, I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, Jez, and I mean, they're probably doing the best they can in New South Wales now, and particularly in Sydney. The lockdowns probably as stringent as they've been. So hopefully that'll help turn the corner, and the vaccination levels will obviously keep increasing as the weeks go on. So I don't know, but I firmly believe we'll be here a lot longer than 4 weeks, and I mean a lot longer. And as you alluded to, maybe even the playoffs and the GF up here. And if that ensures the future of the game for this season, well, so be it. We've got to do it.
Yeah, well, hopefully the restrictions for the general public can be lifted by then. We can jump on a plane and head to Queensland for that grand final day, because I'm sure that's nothing that any of us want to miss out on if we're lucky enough to get there.
Yeah, and I think if if the people in Sydney keep doing what they're doing now, I know the numbers are still flatlining a little bit, but that'll take probably another week to really get control of that with the time that the full lockdowns come in. I'm not a scientist, but that's what I'm trying to predict myself. But I think if that happens, that gives us that's our best chance, I think, of people getting up here to be able to watch the big games at
Yeah.
the end of the year.
And we keep hearing the Premier and the Prime Minister tell us that vaccination's the key. I'm booked in for my second jab next week, so I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully everyone else is booking in for their jabs as well, so that we can try and get back to something close to normal life.
That's good, Jez. That's good.
Yeah, doing our best.
You know, talking about booking in for your jab reminds me of, you know, talking about jabs, the time I went in for my prostate check, actually.
We got 7-second delay on this.
No, it was awful. You know, I was nervous. I've got a history of cancer in my family, and you know, you always get worried when you get those things. And the doctor did what he had to do. He put the glove on, and his hands were a bit cold, and he seemed to have very big fingers. But anyway, he did what he needed to do, and he left. And I was a bit worried, and I was thinking about what the verdict could be. And then the nurse came in, and she said that thing you never want to hear. She said, "Who was that bloke?"
It wasn't Dr. John Hopewadi, was it?
No, I don't think it was. Might have been
Very good.
I don't know.
Very good.
Well, the thing I've learnt this week is that Michael Maguire, Madge, is a changed man. There is no way in hell that he would have let those Fox Sports cameras follow him and the team around all day, every day when he was coaching here at South. He's gone soft in his old age, Madge. But it was an interesting watch the other night on Fox Sports, the documentary around the Tigers and how they do things. Now it differs to how we do things, but yeah, there's a few more episodes to come that I'll definitely be tuning into. But Madge, you're a changed man, mate. You wouldn't have ever let me bring those. I wasn't even allowed to bring a camera into our gym at training, let alone into the change room after games and before games and at half time.
Even their CEO, he sort of prided himself on being relaxed and laid back. In fact, he was that laid back, I thought they were going to have to test him for a pulse at one stage. By the looks of him, but yeah, it certainly was interesting, Jez.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's get into our first top four topic for the week. And as we've been doing, we've been going through the best Rabbitohs players in each position. And this week, it's time for the centres. So we might kick off with you, Ello, on this one. The top four Rabbitohs centres of all time, in your opinion.
It's a really good question, Jez, as it always goes over years where we didn't see a lot of them play. But I mean, we spoke about Greg as the fullback here at the Rabbitohs. He was one of the best centres to come at the club, but I don't think his best football was in the centres at the Rabbitohs. So he would probably be one of the best centres to have come to our club, but probably perform best at fullback. You know, would you agree there?
Yeah, I had him on my list, and I said mainly played fullback with us, but was definitely the world's best centre at rep level while he was playing with us.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you still have to put him in as one of the best centres. You know, it's funny. We go back to the Halcyon days. I mean, you had Ray Branning played in the centres for the Rabbitohs. It's a really hard one to define because, in fairness, there was a time there, particularly, you know, from the era when I played in the 80s, 90s and early 2000s, where we were looking for a centre. It was always the thing we'd be talking about at South. And that's nothing against the centres that we'd had here, but we're always looking for that strike centre. And we got Greg and then moving on to a fullback. But in my time, I think Mavo was as good as Eddie in the time that I played. You know, he, you know, for a young boy, he came through as a local junior, as we know. He had some X factor about him. I know he had a few hiccups during his time in his career, but you know, week in, week out, he could do some things other players couldn't do. He had some deceptive speed. You know, great footwork. And the best thing about Mayo is he was a magnificent defender. And above all, on top of that, he had some of the greatest dives you've ever seen to try.
The swan dive.
So, you know, you can go on. I've to be honest, I haven't done a lot of research today. I've been a bit busy on that one.
No, I could imagine.
You know, the centres, you know, in our history probably haven't I don't think have been as dominant as some of the other positions in our team. And they're, to be honest, they're the two that really stand out for me. And I've heard about Ray Branning and how good a centre he was. I heard about Paul Sait used to play in the centres.
He was on my
good
list
in the
too,
centres as he was in the back row. And you know, they were, but I didn't see a lot of them play. But for what I've seen play, I'd say Greg and Mabe are probably as good as what I've seen in the time that I've been involved.
Yeah, I had Paul Sait and Ray Branning on my list as well. Paul Sait was named as one of the centres in our dream team back in 2004, and I know a lot of people think of him as a back rower and a lock, but to be named in that team as our greatest team of all time up until 2004, that's a pretty good rap. And as you say, Ray Branning, and I didn't get to see any of these guys play, but I've heard the stories from my family over the years, and he's certainly one that was probably one that got away when he went to Manly. So
that's why I found it a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
I think it was a good top four, and I think it's a good one for the people listening today. And like Shannon will obviously have his opinion as well. And it's one position I think that apart from Greg, we haven't had as much competition in that area as we have for other positions. But Paul Sait, I'll go back to Paul Sait. I know he was a robust player, robust defender, quality attacking and skillful attacking player. I was lucky to be coached by Sait in my first year with the club in third grade. He coached me, and the thing I loved about him, he just let you play football. There wasn't any, you got to do this, you got to do that. He said, you know what you've got to do. I've watched you play. You get in and work into this team, and working with the players around you will come up. And we actually made it the prelim final that year too. And he did a great job. Again, he being such a great player, the boys looked up to him and wanted to play for him. And he just let you play football, and it was a good time.
Yeah, very good. I might just finish mine off. I've only got one more before we go to you, Shannon, but mine's sort of looking ahead a little bit. I've got Campbell Graham on my list. I said I reckon he's one of the best defensive centres in the game at the moment. He's so tall and lanky that he gives opposition defences a hell of a time when he gets a head of steam up and can get those long arms away and get an offload away. I think he can become one of our best centres of all time as well if he keeps going on the trajectory that he has over the last few years. We mentioned Madge before, gave him his debut as an 18-year-old when he was doing his HSC exams, and he's just grown so much over the last few years, and I think he can become one of our best as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very good call, Jez. Very good call. He's got a long way to go in his career. He loves it here at the Rabbitohs. He's even becoming an attacking force now too, because he's using that big frame of his to get in great positions. Very hard to stop when he's close to the try line. But I've seen him in a couple of games, particularly in the last couple of years, where even kick out from Penrith, he comes in off the centres and gets his shoulder into him and gives him a bit of a touch up when he plays. And he's certainly one of the great defenders we've got. And at the end of his career, could nearly be on the top of this list.
He's also got one of the best nicknames in the club. Everyone calls him, or a lot of people call him Stretch, but there's a few that have known him a bit longer that call him Herb, and he's named after the character out of 2.5 Men. The actor's name is Ryan Stiles, and they could dead set be twins. It's one of the great nicknames, Herb. I encourage everyone to tune in during these lockdowns. Find 2.5 Men on your catch-up services or your streaming services and have a look and introduce yourself to Herb, because it is Campbell Graham.
Well, Herb's mates call him Stretch.
Yeah.
So there
you go. Shannon, who have you got on your top 4 Rabbitohs centres of all time? Craig Carrington?
Just speak. No, I'll try and think of something.
No, he's already got his shutters.
Yeah.
Very good. But seriously, speaking about Stretch and, how good he is now and he's only going to get better, that's absolutely true. as you know, players, like you look at Greg, he was tall, wiry and lean, and he just filled out as he got older and got bigger and stronger. And can you just imagine Campbell, how he's going to be as he thickens up as he gets older? And I just hope he doesn't thicken up as much as Ello and then get us all of those Ello down the road. He'll end up in the front row. But you talk about bloody Herb as his nickname. Herb is a nickname. What's that make? Ello, Rissole and bloody Herb.
I thought it might have been 11 herbs and spices.
Herb Rissole.
Jez, don't you back him up.
Sorry, no. Sorry, and then apologies to our sponsor, McDonald's.
He's on a roll today, though, Jez, isn't he?
What type of roll? Hot roast beef, chicken. You weren't on the call the other day, Hello, but this is a bit of a look behind the curtains. We had our big staff meeting on Zoom, and in the middle of it, Shannon couldn't help himself. He decided to unmute himself and let all the 50 staff know that he was after a chicken roll for lunch. Just in the middle of it, he's unmuted and said, "I'll have chicken, thanks."
I thought he might have done it next to the barbecue. No?
Yeah, not one of my great performances, I've got to say. But talking about centres, let's get back to some of the great centres that we've cited. Greg Inglis, and I just want to talk. Obviously, he started as a centre, but just talk about the start of his career. Like, it was 2006, his first year, he got Rookie of the Year. And then the following year, imagine this being a rookie, he went and got the Clive Churchill medal in a grand final. Like, he was only a rookie the year before. And then he played so many great years at centres. And then obviously, as you said, when he came to us, played fullback. But as a kid, it was meteoric, his rise. And that was at centre, of course.
Around that period as well, he won the Golden Boot.
He did.
It's just phenomenal. Phenomenal.
He won everything but the Hopman Cup, though. You know, he's won about every trophy there is. And you speak about young guys, and you speak about Stretch coming in while he was still at school. Like Paul Mellor, he's another one of our great centres that I played with. Allo coached at school, a proud Pagewood Maris boy, or Champagnat as they're called now. That Allo's a product of that, and I'm a product of that school, and we both apologise to the school for that. But Paul Mellor, you know, he was in year 11 at school when he came and made his first grade debut. Quite remarkable. And he went on to play 221 games across his career, 107 of those at South with 45 tries, and had a great career. But as we've said previously, never quite lived up the heights, but his potential. But one thing he did, he played great whilst at South when he was young. And as you've said before, Jez, when he came back in his second iteration, he had a great stint at South.
He did.
And so that's Paul Mellor, Greg Inglis, who we've said. I want to touch on Paul Sait as well, because you're right. He was pretty much a lock originally. And then we had Rod Coote at that time, and he was moved to centre. And then when Ron went over to the dark side, over to the Roosters, Sadie moved back into lock, but played a lot of centre. It was, funnily enough, our club was so strong. In 1969, he was in the New South Wales squad, but he played a lot of reserve grade that year. He was getting picked. Our squad was that strong. He was getting picked for New South Wales from our reserve grade side, and he had a great career. Played, for Australia in the World Cup at 1972. Yeah, and as Ello said, not only was he a great player for the club, but he was a great clubman. He went on and coached the lower grades after he retired in 1978. Across the 80s, he coached lower grades at South. And Sadie was a great club man and was a great player at centre as well as lock. So I wanted to include and expand a bit on him. And Eric Sims is probably not one that we all think of when you think of centres, but played fullback in a number of positions. But he was centre in our 1965 grand final. We lost that one, 12-8, but he played a fair bit of centre. The interesting thing, the reason I mentioned that grand final is this is another quirky sort of fact of history, that Eric, the great player that he was, and he just loved playing football, he played in that 1965 grand final. And the week for South, and the loss to St George, and a week later he went back and played for Lapa in the local A-grade grand final as well. Like, you just wouldn't see that these days, but Eric obviously loved his football. And
trophy hunter.
But yeah, he was obviously a great fullback, great kicker of the ball, but he played in 5 consecutive grand finals between 1967 and 71. We obviously won 4 of those. And as I said, kicker of the ball was amazing. He kicked 11 goals in 2 different games, which is just amazing. But it was also the times he played centre was a very good centre, so I thought he might have been a bit left the field. And I just want to give an honourable mention to our great mate Daryl Neville. I thought you'd give your mate a rap, hello, but I'll give Dirty a rap in lieu of you, because he's a great club man as well. He's a life member, but coached, played, and I had the pleasure of playing under Dirty for a couple of seasons, and I know why they call him Dirty.
Yeah, Dirty was a great player, but I probably thought Dirty more as a 5'8". I think he had the natural skills for 5'8", but he played in the 89 team there as a centre and did a great job. You're right. And he helped the club out. He was coached the lower grades there after his career. He came through the local juniors, President's Cup, and he did a great job. Did a great job for an underrated player. I think there's one that I missed that just came to mind was the great Mitch Brennan. From back in the early 80s. I think he came to us and was sort of more of a senior player when he came to us, and had some really good years in the early 80s when we sort of came back into a little bit of prominence when Rocky Laurie was at the club, Bill Anderson was coaching, and Mitch Brennan was the captain of the club, I think, then. And Nathan Gibbs was in that sort of year, Peter Tunks, and Mitch was a senior player in that team, and he was really one of our strike weapons out wide when he played centres for the club.
We've had a few centres too that have represented our club, but probably not at the peak of their careers. But guys like Mark McGaw and Nigel Vunganar and these sorts of guys that have come to our club and they've probably played their best footy elsewhere, but they certainly would have brought something to the club. I remember when Nigel came along with Roy Satasi and David Kidwell and Dean Witters, the change in the culture around the team and around the club, you could feel it, and he was very much a big part of that. So we have had some very good centres play at the club.
Certainly have, Jez.
Anything else, Shannon?
No, that's all. I thought Ello was right when he said, when you think of great positions for this club, centre's probably not the first position that comes to mind. I think he was referring to hookers. We've had some great hookers over the years, and you're spot on, Ello.
What about? Yeah, I'm not going to say that. We'll get ourselves in trouble. Righto, let's go to the first break. Now, the official Rabbitohs merchandise store, the physical store is closed at the moment due to the lockdowns in Sydney, but you can still shop 24 hours a day, 365 days a year at the Rabbitohs online store. So you just need to jump online and visit shop.rabbitohs.com.au, and they've got everything there that you could hope for in the red and green for the Rabbitohs. And Shannon, how are our stocks looking? I'm assuming people are diving in and picking up their Rabbitohs merch towards the back end of the season.
Yeah, our merch sales are going through the roof, actually, Jez. All online, of course. But as we sold so strongly early in the year, we're running lean on stock. But as most of our members have probably seen online, that we've restocked most of the classic gear, so most of the stuff's available. And we've got some new hoodies coming in as well, a new Clean Ranger hoodies. Manufactured by Cotton On. They'll be in within the next week, so I encourage everybody to come in and have a look at that. Jump online and have a look at those, and they're really high quality, really good price points. The masks are obviously selling really well over COVID as well, and we've restocked those as well. So regardless of what you're after, the online merchandise store will have what you need.
Excellent. Shop.rabbitohs.com.au to check out all of the Rabbitohs merchandise as we head towards the finals.
Cheers up.
Sorry to cut you off there, Ello.
That's okay, Jez. I was just wondering, have those Storm Tech jackets come in yet?
I think they've come and gone, to be honest.
They have come and gone. Ello's always a week behind. He's dead set that slow. It takes him 3 hours to watch 60 minutes. Keep up with the program, Ello. Keep up with the program, son.
I'm very happy you said we're bringing some clean sloppy joes in. They're not dirty. That's really good.
I think we might have to get together a bit of a care package and send it up to Ello up in his hub of the new clean range.
Yeah, the clean ranges. For those who aren't aware, the clean range is the unsponsored stuff. So it's just clean, got the Rabbitohs logo and no sponsor logo. Some people like the authentic teamwear. They're wearing the same stuff as the team with the sponsors on them. Some like the clean range, and we've got those clean range hoodies coming in within the next week. So jump on board and have a look.
What about when we get one, Shannon? You send them up, and we'll wear them all for one of our podcasts in the coming 2 weeks. How's that?
That's a great idea, Hello. I'll send one up and send one for you up on a pallet that would need a boot.
A charter flight.
We might be able to use it as a tent at training.
Oh, very good. Righto. Let's move on to topic number 2 for the top 4 today. And of course, we're recording today on Wednesday afternoon, and the first events at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics have kicked off today with softball and football being played today. And we thought, let's have a look at the top 4 Rabbitohs that wouldn't look out of place at the Olympics. Do you want to kick us off with this one, Shannon?
Yeah, happy to, Jez. And I sort of missed the brief early. So I sort of was thinking about, wrestling. Certainly the Storm players would win a medal there, wouldn't they? And at diving, there's plenty of NRL teams that would do that, particularly the 1969 Tigers team. They would have won a medal there.
There's one particular Tigers player that I might have given a gobful to at Leichhardt Oval the other week that doesn't mind diving as well.
Oh, that was outstanding, Jeremy. There's a crowd of 15 people in the stands. And Jeremy, Dane Laurie accused Tane Milne of lying down and taking a dive. And I thought, and you could hear him actually say it to him on the field. And you hear this from the back. How can you talk, Laurie, you mug? He wasn't quite as nice as that either. We can't tell you on air what he said either.
The whole Tigers bench turn around.
Lucky it wasn't at Stadium Australia. You would have had the mic on. It would have went through the whole PA system. Been gold.
The passion was magnificent. Even Laurie looked up to the seats to see who was and said it.
I pointed at you, Ello, when I said it. I said the bloke over here yelling out kicker. Back to your list, Shannon.
All righty. Well, I was gonna start off sensible and serious and quote blokes like Mike Cleary in the sprinting. He obviously went to the Commonwealth Games and was a national sprinter, but then I thought, no, keep in theme and the same feel of the show. I'll go sort of left of centre with some of my Rabbitohs Olympians, and the first one is, as you know, Taekwondo is now an Olympic sport, and seeing that video footage of Cody Walker in the off season, I think he might be a medalist in Taekwondo or karate.
But he played Lachlan Lewis in the final.
I reckon the bronze medalist is Dave Farlongo.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Karate chops and God knows. And I'm saying this safety of my house, knowing that all the boys are up in Queensland, so I can go for a few heckles. The other one is, as you know, shooting's an Olympic sport, and seeing Latrell and a few of his mates up on his property over the off season, I think he might be in for his shooting medal as well. Trell up there with the boys. And one of the guys who loves this sport so much, which surfing, which is an Olympic, he's not actually up in camp with the boys. He's still at the beach as we speak, I think, is Sato. He would definitely be a chance of winning a medal in surfing.
I've heard he's camping at the beach, actually. Stacey can't get him home.
I wouldn't be surprised. And we all know Renault's great at golf, and golf's now an Olympic sport, so he might be a chance. The other one is the great big Huntsman. We all know Huntsman, he's 7'4", and I reckon basketball might suit him. He'd have to bend over to slam dunk, but I reckon the big streak that is Huntsman, I reckon he'd be all right at basketball.
Just on Huntsman, Shannon, you stole one of mine. He was a very, very good shot putter back in the day. I think he was almost an Australian title holder at schoolboys, at school level. So he might have been he wouldn't have looked out of place there. He'd have been a lot taller than a lot of the shot putters. It'd have been a lot easier. He wouldn't have to walk as far to go and get him. He'd just reach over and bring it back.
He tripped. You guys are in quarantine in the camp up there. If he was in quarantine with you blokes, he tripped over. He'd land back in New South Wales. He wouldn't be in quarantine anymore. But the great man Hunter was actually discus, hello, seriously, in the feeding.
Oh, I was, sorry, you're right.
He was a national champion in discus, and I think he was so good at it. He had all the practice in the schoolyard fights. He used to throw his handbag at the other kids. So I think that's where he got so good at throwing the discus as well, the great huntsman. And talking about fighting, I reckon Bundy in boxing. I reckon he might have went all right. And the final one you mentioned, Ello, before, and I've done an Ello with my 28 nominations. But, the one you mentioned before in the diving, the great Steve Maven. He'd be great in the diving.
Oh, yes.
As well.
Yes. The 10-metre swan dive.
Yes, indeed. Or maybe the rhythmic gymnastics. I don't know.
He'd have been no good at the water polo. He'd have kept dropping it.
Oh, dear.
On that note, I'm handing over to
Over to you, Ello. Who are your Olympians?
So Steve Maven, he taught me a joke about the diving. I'm joking about, but he was a top class swimmer as a kid. I think I've spoken about it on the show before, and he was just toweling up schoolboys when he's coming through. But particularly getting the HSC age and things like that. So he could have gone on with his swimming, but he didn't. He stuck with his football. So he was knocked out of place in an Olympic 48-metre event. He was always in front with 2 to go, but just couldn't hang on. No, he was. No, I say that, I'm joking there, but he was a real good swimmer, Maver. You took my thunder with Bundy, but I think if they'd have been better having a street fighting event at the Olympics, I think you'd have even been better at that.
Or in the pairs event, him and Cody together.
Yeah. Ian Roberts would have done very well in the boxing too.
Oh, yes.
Or he'd have been very good in the decathlon events because he was just that fit. He, pretty skillful in different areas, so he could have handled that. Gags, you had Renault with the golf. He's pretty good. So is Gags. He goes all right. Paul Mellor, we mentioned him again. He was one of probably the greatest athletes that I've seen come through the club outside of a footballer. He was naturally gifted. He was athletic. I don't know what his skin files were, Shannon. I've probably been just a tad better than yours, I suppose, at the time when you played with him.
They do my skin files with barbecue tongs, hello.
Only when you finish cooking, what are you doing?
Indeed.
Oh, dear. How many have I given you?
Oh, about 8, 9.
Yeah.
We're a very athletic bunch, us Rabbitohs.
Yeah.
I've got a few nominations as well. Some more modern day ones. I had Alex Johnston for the 100-metre dash.
Yeah.
He might not win it, but he'd certainly be in the final, AJ. He's got plenty of pace about him. I had Thomas Burgess. Now, unfortunately, he'd have to represent England and not Australia, but he'd certainly be up there for weightlifting or wrestling with that big body on him. Then I had...
certainly wouldn't be gymnastics, Jez.
No,
I can assure you of that.
No, not gymnastics. Not the most limber of folk, but he might make the English gymnastics team. No, but he wouldn't make the Australian one.
The Eddie the Eagle of gymnastics.
The next one I had a little bit different. I had Adam Reynolds. Now, not necessarily in the throwing events, but as the actual javelin or the discus or the shot put, because I reckon there'd be a few blokes in our team who'd like to just throw him halfway down the athletics field after he's been pestering them all day. So I reckon he'd make a good javelin, Reno.
Not halfway, the full way.
They'd be breaking world records with Reno.
He's just starting to come into his own up at camp too.
I could imagine.
He's just starting to find his way.
Oh dear!
So I think it could be bedlam the next couple of weeks.
I'm sure
I can't wait for Talara to get here to just calm him down a bit.
And the 4 kids.
Yeah.
They'll take the edge off him. My last one, and I couldn't leave us out, but it's us three blokes. Now, we wouldn't look out of place at the Olympics lining up for a hot dog and chips to watch some of these other athletes do what they're going to do.
I'm up for that, too. If Ella doesn't come, I'll eat these as well.
You'll eat it even if I do come, Shannon. What are you talking
Oh, excellent.
Can I give one more honourable mention? Because I just remembered that it is an Olympic sport now. And baseball is an Olympic sport now. And I just remember our former coach, Madge, swinging that baseball bat over it. I think it was a foul that time. And I reckon the way he was swinging that bat might have got him into an Olympic team. Right, and sent a hammer and tong with that baseball bat. I think it was Brookvale Oval, wasn't it, Ella?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
I wonder if we'll see that on the doco.
I can't remember, Shannon. He got me on the backswing.
Ella was getting an HIA.
He told you it was an accident. Yeah, sure it was.
They don't have cricket at the Olympics, do they?
They don't, no. It's made an appearance at the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, you throw Bronco to Dura in there.
Oh, yes.
He was a very good cricketer back in the day.
Was he a keeper?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you give him a batsman, Jez.
Very good.
Yeah,
I like that. And we can't forget, speaking of Madge, yours and Madge's efforts on the SCG a few years back, Ella.
That's a long time ago, Jez.
I
think I top scored, though.
I was going to say, I'm sure you raised the bat.
That's the only, that's the only thing I remember.
I remember how filthy you were. They didn't put your name in gold on the boards in the dressing room.
I tell you the worst thing. The worst thing was that I'm ready to bat the next day, and I've forgotten. And we'd had our staff Christmas party the day before, so I've turned up a bit dusty and worse for wear. It's about 35 degrees. I've gone out to bat, and I'm thinking, because I'd only been in the nets. I hadn't played cricket for ages. I had a couple of net sessions. And I get out there, I forgot you had to run between the wickets. I was trying to hit fours. I couldn't hit. So you need to just go short of the boundary. You have to run three. And I tell you, I was dead set shot after that.
You'd been in the cricket nets at Snake Park where the boundaries are 15 metres away. You get out to the SCG where they're 80 metres away.
No, it was a really good experience that day.
If it was after a staff Christmas party and you're talking about raising the bat, the only thing higher than the bat you would have raised, that would have been your blood alcohol levels.
Shannon, are there any Italians that we should keep an eye out for during the next fortnight with the Olympics?
Obviously, the soccer team is purely gifted. Saw what they did over there against the Poms. But as I said last week, the English are such gracious losers, aren't they? The way they handled that with such dignity and poise. Yes. So, no, the Italians, the thing about the Italians, as I said last week, they had the same problem in war. They swapped sides at half time.
Oh dear. Oh, righto. Well, we might leave it there before we get complaint letters from our from the Italian Rabbitohs community.
You're very feisty today, Shannon.
Controversial.
I hope you're controversial enough for not to have you on next week. That's how good we are.
Righto, let's move on to our next break. Now, we've spoken about Rabbitohs Plus before, and now's probably a good opportunity while everyone has a bit more time on their hands to have a look at your finances and your household services and see if Rabbitohs Plus can help you out from travel deals to home and contents insurance, credit cards, car insurance, home loans, anything like that are services that you use every day. There's sure to be an option there for you on Rabbitohs Plus. So visit plus.rabbitohs.com.au. And Shannon, you were telling us earlier you're currently packing up and moving house at the moment. And did you end up moving that home loan over to Rabbitohs Plus?
Not yet, Jez, but we'll certainly do it. I'm still working on the 12 credit cards that my wife has, and the other 8 she's ordered through Rabbitohs Plus. But seriously, though, in terms of you're spot on, Jez. Go on there, compare what you're currently paying, and I'm sure you'll be pleasantly surprised. across a range of financial products, insurances, travel, whatever it might be. Go on there and compare, and I'm sure you're going to get a better price. And as I always say, you're supporting not only the Rabbitohs and you support, but you're going to get a better product and a better price.
Excellent. Plus.rabbitohs.com.au to check out all of the offers from Rabbitohs Plus. Now we have our trivia question from last week. It was, in which year was the first competition game played at Redfern Oval? Who were our opponents and what was the score? So we talked about the week before the last competition game. This time we're going to talk about the first competition game, of course, at the spiritual home of the Rabbitohs, Redfern Oval. What do we think, gentlemen? First of all, maybe the year that it was first used.
Being the gentleman that I am, I'll let LA go first. I always know he's so well researched with these kind of things.
I'm having problems with my internet up here, Jeff. I just can't get on the Google.
You're not having trouble with your menu log, but obviously.
That's a good call.
Let me have a crack.
Have a guess.
I think it'd be around the 1920s.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Shannon?
Yeah, I was going to say about 1932.
Okay, well, my research says that the first game was on the 17th of April, 1948. And we had a draw with the now defunct Eastern Suburbs Roosters Club. Eastern Suburbs doesn't exist anymore. It was 19-all in front of 8,000 people. Jack Rayner was the captain that day, and Clive Churchill played in that team. So, 1948 was the first game at Redfern Oval.
Can I ask one question, Jez?
You can.
Did they have doors on the toilets in the dressing rooms that day?
I'm not sure.
I don't think they had them on for my entire career.
We might have to ask Wayne. He might have played that day.
The dressing rooms, I tell you, by the time you and I got there, Hello, it was like Slumdog Millionaire, wasn't it? You know, the Redfern Oval, she was pretty run down. But the interesting thing about that first game, talking about playing the Roosters and the 8,000 crowd, Jez, to this day, it's still a Roosters crowd record for them. So congratulations.
Oh, excellent. Now, let's have a look at next week's trivia question. So last week we announced that John Morris will be joining the club as an assistant coach for the next 2 years. Now, he's a 300 gamer, but how many first grade games did he actually play? So that one should be an easy one for you guys to do a bit of research on. So we'll give you the answer to that one next week. But he's played 300 games, so let's see how many was the exact number he played.
I think I might know that one, Jeremy.
Well, I thinks he knows. All right, he might have read my media release.
I reckon I can be in the ballpark. I reckon it could be 300 and something. But anyway.
300 odd, as they like to say.
That's right. That's why I said 1920 something.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, there we go. Very good.
Your pant size, LA. But anyway.
Them's fighting words.
Oh, this has been beautiful, mate. I'll be better prepared next week, Shannon.
See what happens. He moves up to Queensland. He's been up there less than a week. And he's already turned out a bit slow.
Yeah.
See what happens. Become Queenslanders.
I feel like I'm 10 years behind.
So you're only 72 now.
All right, I'm going to a break before you two get into some fisticuffs. Now, the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast and the Rabbitohs Podcast Network, it's brought to you by the great team at Wotif. So if you're getting yourself ready for when these lockdowns are lifted and you want to get away or get to a game, Wotif has all the answers for you with great deals on accommodation, flights, car hire and more. And don't forget, they're the official travel partner of the Rabbitohs. So you can head to wotif.com/Rabbitohs and use the promo code Rabbitohs15 to save 15% on select hotels. Now, conditions apply with that, but you can save 15% on select hotels by visiting wotif.com/Rabbitohs and use that code Rabbitohs15. And Wotif, it's Aussie for travel. And Ello, we said last week we hope that the NRL jumped onto wotif.com/Rabbitohs and used Rabbitohs15 code to save a bit of money in these hubs. It would have saved them a massive chunk of money. We're hearing $12 to $15 million a month to be able to move everybody up north, including players and their families. It's a big chunk of money.
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure, Jez, if that's actually what it's cost to move them or what the cost to run the game a month is.
Right.
But you're right. It could be. I'm not sure. But, it's been, I must say, you've got to take your hat off the NRL. But what they've done in a week, we're a week into it today. They had about 2-3 days notice. And the clubs and that, to get happening what they have, there's a few hiccups with the partners and that they had to come a few days later. But it's just an incredible logistical, process that they've gone through. We've got 41 players. We've got 41 in the hub, or we will have when Benji gets up here and Jai comes back in. Jai comes back in tomorrow to the just normal in the hotel. And we'll have 41. So there'll be 30 players and 11 staff. And then when we consider our partners and families, I think it's about 78 on top. So there's the best part of 120 people that they've sent up here. And we have to find lodgings for. And particularly here at the Mercure, there's 4 other teams staying with us. We've got the Raiders, the Bulldogs. They'll be quiet this week. The Eels and the Warriors. So they're all here. We play on Sunday, obviously, at the Sunshine Coast, which is just a fantastic day. It'll be our home game. We're looking for many people to turn out as possible because it'll be exciting up there. The weather looks like it's going to be nice, and it's a lovely atmosphere up there and a great stadium to play at. So I'm sure we'll get our faithful fans out there to watch us there. But our prep for that game will be, we'll probably have to leave here at about 10:30 or 10 or 10:30 a.m. in the morning. It's about a 2.5 hour bus ride. And then we play at 3 o'clock kickoff. But, the saving grace is the Warriors are doing exactly the same thing. So preparation for both teams will be the same. And to be fair, getting out on the bus, it's like winning lotto at the moment. When you get out on the bus, we go training, went training this morning. The boys have gone to gym this afternoon. But it's good having the little outings. But we know there'll be an end point to that, a time where we can start to move around a lot more freely. Obviously, there'll still be, I'd imagine, some protocols we have to attend to, but I'm not sure what they are now. But being in Queensland, where COVID seems a little bit better controlled than it is, not a little bit, a lot better at the moment than in Sydney. It makes it a bit easier to try and get back to a little bit of normality. And I think, in fairness, we get the boys back to normality, we get their families up here, not only for our club, but for all the clubs. I think, the quality of the football still was good last weekend, but I think it'll get better and better as everyone settles into the environment we're in up here. And that'll be a test to the clubs, how they get their team and their partners and everything together, so that we get it as back to normal, much back to normal as possible. And we've got some good contingency plans in place here that Brock has been working very heavily on to get into place, and I'm sure we'll be up there fighting out at the finish, Jez.
Hello, who's in charge of setting off the fire alarms in the Warriors section of the resort in the early hours of Saturday morning? Have you appointed that to the captain of the pests, Adam Reynolds?
Jez, I haven't even got that on my list of things to do because I'm sure he'll have that organised anyway. So I don't even have to discuss that with him.
Excellent.
Jez, you mentioned the Warriors and trying to upset them, and Ello spoke about, teams trying to have a sense of normality, and with the Warriors, they're struggling with their family not being able to be over and their loved ones and their partners, but they've done the next best thing and they've shipped them up some Ugg boots. So the Warriors are very happy about that. And the chef kept putting out legs of lamb for them for dinner, and he'd come back to clean up afterwards, and they all had love bites in them, the leg of lamb. So I've told you what they say about the Kiwis, the three great stories every Kiwi tells, haven't I?
Oh, I don't know. Do I want to hear them?
Oh, no, my father, he played for the All Blacks, and my mother, she was a Maori princess, and the third one is I was just actually helping that sheep over the fence.
No.
Well, there's joke of the week anyway.
And back to the topic at hand, make sure you visit wotif.com/Rabbitohs for any of your trips to New Zealand. Use that code Rabbitohs15 to save 15%. What if it's Aussie for travel? Hello, it's time for Joke of the Week. As you mentioned, you're up this week.
Yeah, it's a bit of a short and sharp one this week, Jeremy. I was walking down the road before we got locked up, and I saw these two dogs sitting there, and one said to the other, "Why have all these humans got muzzles on?" The other one said, "Because they won't sit and stay."
Oh, very good. Very topical. I like it. Very good.
Hey, can I just finish off with a thank you, actually, Jez? You just mentioned the great team at What If, and led by Daniel Finch and his team, Donna, and the team up there in Brisbane, are actually helping the players' partners. They're all due up there today, and they've been helping the club find accommodation for the players and their partners, particularly when they're both out of quarantine, trying to find service apartments. And the team at What If have really, really helped. First of all, I need to thank Simon McGrath and everyone at Accor who are housing the boys now whilst they're in the bubble and for 14 days at the fantastic Accor properties. But Finch and the What If team have been really helpful and supportive of our team in finding accommodation for our players and our families when they can come back and live in some sense of normality in serviced apartments, and that's been made possible by the great team at What If, and they're just great partners in every sense of the word. Discounted travel for our members and supporters, supporting our team. They even, as we know, support this podcast, but they even support our Pathways team. So just a big shout out and thank you to Daniel Finch, Donna, and all of the team at What If, and thank you for their support.
Here, and to Daniel and Donna and everyone at What If, you can expect some sort of email from Shannon looking for a bit of help once the lockdown finishes.
Well said. You know me well, Jeremy. Well said.
I think we can use. Sorry, you go, Ellen.
There you go.
Well, I was just going to say we can use the code Rabbitohs15. He's looking at Donato 50. That's what.
That's right.
Donato 100.
Jeremy, whatever the top four is next week, they'll be in it.
Yeah. Yes. I didn't know Daniel Finch played 5'8" for the Rabbitohs.
He's great, man. There's no
Donna.
Finch can't do.
Jez, if I can just say a shout out to the supporters that came to see us on the weekend to watch us play. We had the game at Leichhardt with no supporters was really tough. And then, getting up here, we had a few at Newcastle. I thank them also, but up here, I know we've got a great following up here in Queensland. There's a lot of Rabbitohs supporters, so I hope to see them. It's a great opportunity for them to come out and see their stars and the boys. I know the boys lift when they've got the crowd there, and they see the red and green in the seats in the stand, and we get out there in numbers. I know the boys come over after the game and give you a salute and a clap. Unfortunately, they can't come up, shake hands and get photos and that at the moment, but, they really appreciate your presence at games. So if you can get there, especially this Sunday, it'll be a great one up there at the sunny coast. which is obviously, as I said, our home game, and we're looking forward to taking the Rabbitohs spirit to the sunny coast.
Well, for anyone that's thinking of going, make sure you don't go on Sunday. Make sure you go Saturday.
Sorry, Saturday.
You better check that bus booking, Ella.
That reminds me, Ella, you remind me of one of my friends that's going up to that game on Saturday, actually. He's a Chinese friend of mine you remind me of. His name's Ugly. Just say hello to him for me. You got a lot in common. Jez, you mentioned the Sunshine Coast game. We need to thank Tourism and Events Queensland and the Sunshine Coast Council for making that possible as well. They've been big supporters of the club for a number of years now, and we've had this game in train all year. And whilst other councils might have buckled during these COVID restrictions and logistical challenges, the Sunshine Coast Council and Tourism and Events Queensland have been unwavering in their support. So hopefully I'll get a free holiday out of that one.
Well, while we're thanking people, I'd like to thank my partner Christy and my daughter Kira for clearing out of the downstairs of our 2-bedroom apartment. You might hear some bumping in the background on my audio. That's the 3 dance classes that are currently going on upstairs at the moment. The tap and the hip hop and the jazz that are going on upstairs in the bedroom upstairs via Zoom. So thank you to them for enabling us to do this podcast in peace and quiet.
Well, just thank God Shannon's not up there with him, Jesse, to come straight through the ceiling.
He finished with the final blow. Well played. Through the ground.
Now, final thank you is to everyone listening today. Thanks for joining us again. Make sure you contact us on rabbitohs.com.au/podcasts or jump on Twitter and find SSFC Rabbitohs. Send us in your topic suggestions, write us a review or give us a 5-star rating, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. It was funny, actually. My daughter's quite hooked to YouTube on her iPad. She watches a lot of YouTube, and we were talking about the podcast the other day, and she says, Dad, make sure at the end that you tell everyone to hit the subscribe button and make sure they follow you. You got to make sure you do that. So that's for Kira, making sure that you all hit subscribe when you're listening to our podcast. And we've got all the other podcasts on the Rabbitohs Podcast Network as well. We've got our Player Media podcast. That includes Wayne's press conference on the Captain's Run Day, which is always a bit of fun. We've got the audio version of the Rabbitohs Insider, and the man that we mentioned a few times today, Steve Maven, he heads up the crew with Chaps and Brownie at Rabbitohs Radio, and they're doing a really good job. They're branching out into Rabbitohs TV, and they're doing all sorts of stuff over there. So they're creating their own little multimedia empire on Rabbitohs Radio and Rabbitohs TV. So it's good to see them throwing all their efforts into that. They're doing a really good job, and I look forward to their podcast each week. They were a bit later getting this week's one out because we played on a Sunday night, and I text them on Monday morning saying, boys, has something happened to your podcast? I'm getting withdrawals. I haven't been able to listen to it over the weekend. So they have a lot of fun on there, and it's good to hear their banter as well. And of course, the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast is powered by Audio Technica, proudly presented by Wotif. And thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us via Zoom, another great partner of the Rabbitohs, enabling us to do this and create some content for our members and supporters.
Absolutely, Jez. Been a lot of fun today. Really enjoyed it, particularly sticking it into LO.
And good luck up there.
It's always a soft landing. Actually, you wouldn't mind you sending a few of those menu log vouchers up to me too, Shannon.
They're actually on their way, believe it or not.
Are they really?
Yeah, my backyard's strewn with them, but I still managed to find a few to send up for you and the boys.
Very good. Well, thanks, gentlemen, and we will see you all again next week.
Thanks for listening to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by Wotif, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Support the club and visit wotif.com/Rabbitohs to book your next trip. Don't forget to use the code Rabbitohs15 to get 15% off select hotels. Conditions apply. Wotif, it's Aussie for travel. Please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Up the Rabbitohs.